Welcome to this exciting flight that I'm taking in Alaska, heading to Anchorage. Just about getting ready to roll. We'll talk more about the fantastic sight and scenery that we are about to see as we climb to the cruising altitude. Just getting ready to V1 and rotate at this point. So there you go. Just a gentle lift off. So the anticipated flight time is about 40-45 minutes for this flight. As you just noticed, I changed my navigation from visual to GPS. That's what you're seeing on the left top corner. I changed from green to the magenta color in those arrows. It's just telling you that I just changed it from green, which was in visual mode, to the GPS mode. We'll talk a bit more about the autopilot and the various modes that are available that I can use to help my flying. So currently I'm climbing at about 900 feet per minute. You'll soon see how I use some of the automation available to help me. So the first one here, what you're seeing is the vertical speed. It's currently set at 1,300 feet. That's what I'm setting it at. That's my climb rate. And I'm also turning on the autopilot to engage and help me with that climb. So this way I can have a steady climb and as quickly as I can to avoid those mountains in front of me. Next, I'm trying to set the altitude. I should have done this first, but that's fine. As I start setting the altitude, the autopilot automatically kicks me out of the vertical speed. So I'm holding up the climb manually now while I'm setting my altitude. Initially setting it up for 12,000 feet, and then once I've set the altitude that I desired, and then I would go back and set the speed at which I would like to climb. So I'm setting my vertical speed and I'm putting it at about 1,200 feet per minute. So as I'm changing those numbers, you could see on the right side bottom of the screen the VS, which is the vertical speed. That has now gone up to 1,100 almost, and climbing up as well. The airspeed at this point is 103, and just dropping a little bit because I'm taking a steep climb. So the airspeed, comes down. It's just physics. As you climb up, your airspeed is going to be challenged, and then as you nose down, then your airspeed is going to increase, and then we need to adjust the throttle to determine how much of airspeed you want, basically. So I'm just turning on at this point the nav mode to assist me to get into the flight path. And the red line, the magenta line that you see on the right screen in the cockpit is my GPS navigation system. So I just turned on the nav mode to to help me to get to my flight path after my initial climb. So that's exactly what we're doing right now. Just to put it in perspective, as the nav mode kicks in and as the plane helps me to pull me into the path in which I'm supposed to fly, you'll start seeing the numbers on the left top getting the middle number getting close. The middle number is the number that I'm actually flying at right now. But as the flight starts stabilizing, as the nav mode starts pulling me into my GPS path, you will start it aligning with the CRS number basically. So that's where there'll be my path, my actual path, and my planned path will become one and the same at that point. So this way, there's no change. So now you're seeing me actually reducing my vertical speed. And I'm doing that because if you notice my airspeed is currently 86 and it's getting low. I need to increase that airspeed. I don't want to get into a stall mode. So I need to maintain certain airspeed. 80 is minimum that I need to maintain. Could go lower, but I don't want to risk. So I cut down my rate of climb from 1200 to 900. So as you notice, my airspeed is slowly increasing because I just dropped the nose a little bit and the rate at which I'm climbing. So currently the vertical speed now is about 900 feet per minute, and my airspeed is slowly increasing, and it's currently at 100, and it should go further up. Climbed safely at close to about 7,000 feet and climbing still. As you noticed, if you recall, I set it up earlier on to 12,000 is the altitude at which I want to cruise, so that's what I've set. And if you see the altitude bar, it says 12,300. That's what I've set up. And as once I reach that altitude, the plane will level up, and then I will be cruising at that speed, and we'll talk more about the sights and sceneries around us. The airspeed is slowly but surely increasing because of the decrease in the vertical speed that I had adjusted earlier on. It's a fantastic view while flying in Alaska. Amazing mountain ranges with so much of snow and ice, and so many glaciers emptying themselves into the bay. And you'll see so many of them. This 40-odd minute flight is just such a treat, actually. The little needle that you see, the blue needle that you see, or the teal colored needle that you see, is basically telling us that I'm still 96 nautical miles away from my destination, and the arrow tells me in the direction which I should be flying or I'm flying. Right now, I'm actually exactly in the direction in which I should be flying, so therefore you just see the target mark. But if I were to be deviating, it will just then point a needle in the direction of the destination. Still climbing at that 900 feet per minute towards my planned altitude of 12,300 feet. My airspeed seemed to have settled at between 107 and 110 knots. But once the flight levels up, it should go up because I'm still full throttle. You can see a glacier on the right side. What a fantastic sight. So, as you see, we are just about going to cross that 10,000 feet mark. The flight is actually in the path. The magenta color on the right screen and the white plane icon are in alignment. So currently I'm just trying to increase my altitude, cruising altitude. I changed my mind and I said I'm going to need 14,000 feet. I really don't have an idea as to what is the mountain range that I'm going to see ahead of me, and I really don't want to take any chances. I know for sure that there aren't any mountains there that's taller than 14,000 feet, so just want to kind of maintain a safe height. So I'm just set some extra buffer, so I'm just trying to increase my altitude to 14,000. I'm just going to keep my same climb rate of 900 feet per minute, so that will continue, which is what you're seeing on the right bottom of the screen. VS, it's saying 995. It depends upon, it tells me there is some wind pressure from the bottom, so it's just pushing me up. So the pressure, though I had set only 900 feet per minute, it is currently climbing at 980 or so, and that's probably caused by some upward pressure that I'm getting, some freebie from Mother Nature. The airspeed is currently at 102. That tells me that there isn't much of a tailwind. Obviously, I'm also traveling westward, so there isn't much help from the tailwind perspective. So as the wind pressure from the bottom is pushing me up and my virtual speed is increasing, my airspeed, as I indicated to you, as the climb goes steep, the airspeed goes down. So that's what is happening here. But I'm not going to be too very worried about it because I've already set it at 900 feet per minute, and it's not alarmingly, the vertical speed is pretty close to it, not so therefore too very worried about it. The airspeed is still at a decent 97. Once it goes into the 80s is when I probably would make some tweaks, but for now I'm just going to leave it where it is because I'm very close, very quickly reaching my cruising altitude, desired cruising altitude, which is 14,000 is what I said, at which point the plane should level up, and then my airspeed should automatically increase. If you notice, the vertical speed has already come down to 890. An outside view. Yeah, this was a very interesting view. I just wanted to kind of show the top-down view. There is this bay sort of setting here, and some cones, cone formations in the ice there in green color. I'm not sure if it's algae or I don't know what that is making it look green, and some kind of a cone formation, and on top of that there's a lot of ice there, and there are multiple glaciers emptying in there. So what a fantastic sight. So we're reaching close to our cruising altitude, which is set at 14,000. The plane should start leveling up pretty quickly, and you will start seeing that vertical speed go down. There you go. The vertical speed is just almost dropping down to 0, stabilizing, and as that's happening, you're seeing on the left side my airspeed is climbing now. As I'd mentioned, as my ascent rate comes down, my airspeed goes up because I'm still full throttle. So my autopilot is maintaining the altitude that I'd set at 14,000 feet, and my airspeed is also at a good 124 knots, and it climbs a little bit, probably goes into 130s, and then it'll settle there. I'm not too very worried about it at this point. My altitude is maintained, and that's how I have set up my autopilot. So focusing on my altitude and my airspeed, I'm controlling it with my throttle. So right now we are maintaining a 125. I was just checking my nav mode is on, and the flight is in path. Just some quick pointers. My strobe light is on, just to indicate that I'm in flight mode. So that's being turned on. So the altitude is on. Just checking both. Vertical navigation, I don't need that. We'll talk about that in another video, but for now the focus is on altitude and nav mode as a part of that autopilot. So it says we are still 77 nautical miles away from destination. That's just probably another 25-30 minutes, I would say. 25 minutes. It's a nice smooth skies at this point. The air is nice and smooth. The sky is clear, and great views. Just to kind of give you a bit more information about the aircraft, I'm flying today a single prop. It's the aircraft itself is manufactured by a company called Diamond. The model number is DA40. Supposedly very popular aircraft and very stable and reliable plane. Very popular amongst enthusiasts who would like to, use this aircraft. I was told through research that this was released in 2002, and ever since then they have sold several thousands of these in both Europe and North American markets, basically. So Just checking the VFR map just to get a close up of my path. Looks all good. What a great view. Just mountain ranges till your eyes could see. Just some and snow everywhere and all those mountains. Just such a fantastic view, and so many glaciers that is just emptying into the bays. So this is probably my second or third flight between these two destinations, and I'm doing this repeatedly because I just love the sights and sceneries while flying over Alaska. Such a fantastic views up from up here, and the map brings about so much of realistic imagery that it is just breathtaking. You could see the number of glaciers from these mountains that's flowing downward. It's just mind-blowing. The plane is stable. The autopilot is currently managing this for me as I'm monitoring it. We're still about 65, 63 nautical miles now from the destination. Flying over that river that empties into that bay. An awesome thing that Microsoft has done and brought about a lot of realism to this simulator is the sound, the scenery, and all of the instrumentation in the cockpit is pretty close to real, I should say, and it's kind of helps an enthusiast like myself to learn on the simulator, and later on, if and when I were to decide to get to a flying school and actually start learning, my belief is it shouldn't be that huge a difference from what I'm learning here to what I would get to see on field when I actually get to a school and then start touch and feel a plane. So I'm hoping this all helps in that process. Unfortunately, there isn't very many points of interest in this flight path. Otherwise, on other flight paths, when you're flying over flying over land, other normal flight routine flights. Let's say, for example, from New Jersey, Trenton Mercer Airport to, let's say, Pittsburgh, and you get to see a lot of points of interest. And Microsoft Simulator, has pins that pokes out and tells you what those points of interest are, and there are ways for you to see them and enjoy. So there isn't many in this flight path, because pretty much the terrain here is mountainous, and then they all have one thing for sure in abundance, that is snow. For those of you who are interested to know a little bit more about the equipment that I have here, I have with me. I've actually loaded this Microsoft Flight Simulator onto my Xbox, and I have the Xbox is the most recent one that was released by Microsoft, and then I also have the Turtle Beach yoke. And the accompanying flight gears, basically. I still don't have the pedal. I'm going to install the pedal pretty soon. So for now, the rudder controls are on the yoke itself, so just using that. So we have about another 50 or so nautical miles to reach the destination. So we're almost halfway into our flight at this point. Again, some great sceneries out there. With all these beautiful mountain range. That is, it makes you think and ponder as to how insignificant we are. And when we look at ourselves and compare ourselves with nature, we just so inconsequential. So maybe that's not fair. I mean, consequential, because we are really causing the damage to this wonderful planet. But in reality, we absolutely don't have control in how nature comes at us, basically. So level flight at this point, and we are still at a 14,000 altitude, give or take. And then the airspeed has been fairly stable at 125. And the autopilot has been doing a fantastic job of managing all this for me, and I had to at the start set up exactly the way I wanted it. About 40 miles to the destination at this point. So should be getting there pretty shortly. And you'll start seeing me slowly making preparation to descend as we get closer. Because, you would see the airport, destination comes pretty quickly right after at the edge of this mountain range, basically. That's a flat land. So we would, our airport was straight ahead, and I don't have to make any major turns for this one. So, so I would have to get down, lose altitude pretty quickly. But at the same time, I can't do that now because of all these mountains up here. So I'm going to, you would see that I start slowly but gradually losing height and start descending towards Anchorage, which is our destination. And that should be coming up pretty quickly. Some view of the cockpit, seeing the rudder pedals there. You see the yoke, it's a stick yoke here on this one. There is also the throttle that you see. Right now it's at 100%. And then in between the two seats you see the trim control. That helps you to make some subtle changes, whether you want to nose up or nose down. So this way we can have a level flight and use the nose as needed, use the trim as needed, use the trim as needed to lift up the nose or bring it down. And then, of course, those pedals are used while you're on ground to turn the plane left or right. We don't use the yoke or the stick. We use the pedals basically in a plane. Unlike a car, you use your steering wheel. So, as I had said before, I'm slowly dialing down the altitude, trying to get to lose 1,500 feet at this point. Just going to take it in small steps. And usually I like to do that. I don't like big changes in altitude. I like to do them in phases. So my first phase, I'm losing 1,500 feet, and as you notice, I'm doing that with 300 feet per minute vertical speed descent. So which is what you're seeing. And as my vertical speed shows negative, which just means I'm going down, if you would see my airspeed slowly increases, but that I'm controlling by adjusting the throttle. I don't want to go at much greater speed. I want to just maintain certain speed. So I adjusted, use the throttle to adjust.
118.6 for SR 3915 Sierra Romeo 42. Anchorage approach SR 3915 Sierra Romeo 42, 13,500 feet.
SR 3915 Sierra Romeo 42 Anchorage approach altimeter 29.902.
My flight is SR 3915, SR 42. So that's my tail and identifier. It's about 30 miles east of Anchorage. So as you noticed, as I increased the descent rate at which I'm descending, my airspeed increased as well. So, and I'm dropping the altitude further because I just have another 25 nautical miles or so to go. So I'm just trying to bring it down at a certain pace that I believe is going to help me to set up my approach. So right now I am further dialing it to about 1,000 feet per minute, which is my rate of descent. As I did that, and as I'd mentioned earlier to you, as my descent has increased, the rate of my descent has increased, my airspeed has increased as well. So if you notice, I dialed 1,000 feet per minute descent, and my airspeed has increased from 125 now almost to 137, 138. I can always control that with my throttle, but for now I'm just letting it go up so I can get to my destination faster. Currently set it up to 9,500. The reason I'm doing that is I'm just being cautious. I'm trying to figure out. I don't have the topography information with me. I'm still trying to work through all of that to understand and perhaps gain some advanced knowledge of what my flight path is going to look like and what is the height, and if there are any mountain ranges and the height the maximum height at which those could be. So all those metrics are something that I'm still learning to understand and trying to figure that out. So this way I could have a better flight plan. But in the meantime, I'm trying to use visual to determine as to what my flight path looks like. So that's just why you're seeing me making those adjustments as I'm approaching and as I'm getting to see. I'm then making those decisions as to what is the altitude I want to be, the rate at which I want to descend, and all of that. So right now we are under 20 nautical miles from the airport. So I'm seeing that the mountain range is becoming more shallow. So you would start me diving down a bit more and faster. Okay, 5 minutes, I'll be there. So as we get closer to Anchorage, you're seeing these mountains are a bit more drier, in the sense there isn't much of snow on these ones as we get closer to the flatland. So at this point, I'm starting to further reduce my altitude. I'm trying to bring it down closer to, I'm going to say about 5,000 or 4,000, something like that. And then I'm going to use the vertical speed to drop it by almost 1,000 feet per minute. Just basically, I would go back and increase it again, because that's not going to cut it for me. So I probably will almost take it to 2,000 feet. So this way, I can have a really good, nice approach set up. I'm slowly starting to get a visual on the airport. At this point, my airspeed is at 142. I'll start making adjustments to my throttle to not let it go beyond 140. That's my plan, is to keep it under that, because at the same time I need to reduce my speed as well as I'm approaching the airport. I don't want to be too hot as well as I get closer to the runway. So I'm right now dropping the altitudes further. Just about close to 10 miles from the airport. So really kind of trying to get my altitude down. At the same time, try and keep it nice and smooth. Yep, as I'd mentioned to you, I'm almost at 1900 feet per minute and descending pretty quickly. I adjusted throttle, pulled it back a little bit, so this way my airspeed is maintained, or doesn't go crazy. I don't want to get there faster, because I have to lose altitude here, so I want to slow down a little bit and lose that altitude as well. So these are the kind of decisions that we'll have to make to ensure that I descend faster, but at the same time my airspeed is not faster, so that I can lose my height, altitude, and then plan for my final approach. Getting a good view of my runway. So I'm trying to align my aircraft to be in line with the runway that I'm going to land. If I recall correctly, it's the left one. So working my way towards that. As you notice, I'm very quickly losing altitude here. Trying to prepare for a nice, smooth glide path as I approach the runway. Yep. And further refining my throttle to lose some airspeed, so this way I don't remain hot as I'm approaching the runway. So at this point in time, I've hit the 3000s. The plane is trying to level off, and I'm removing the autopilot from here on, and I'm going to fly it myself. So As you see, I'm trying to pitch downward manually to lose the remaining 3,000 feet. As you see under the marker, it tells me at what height the airport is above sea level. So I need to account for that as well as I'm losing weight. So that's another data point. So at this point in time, I'm opening the flaps. That's what you just saw me do rather. So that putting the flaps down helps to lose airspeed and altitude as well. So I'm set well here. At this point in time, I'm reaching the airport. So it's 25L. That's where I'm heading straight. So
SR 3915 Sierra Romeo for 2 wind calm, clear to land runway 25 left.
the simulator is telling me I'm coming in too fast or too hot, which is fine. It's expecting me to be much slower at this point, less than 100 airspeed, but that's fine. I can control that. I now further from half to full flaps right now at this point in time. I'm starting to lose airspeed and lose altitude as well. I just gave my acknowledgement for landing in the runway. Just finished that. I did the radiocom, and then at this point in time, I'm losing. Now it turned teal, telling me that my airspeed is just about at the recommended level. It's 82, 83. I give a bit more gas, increase push, so this way I can maintain some minimum airspeed as I'm starting to lose altitude and make a smooth landing. So one of the toughest part of flying is getting the plane on ground safely. So hopefully I can get this accomplished this time as well. So SP is at 81, losing altitude. Just flaring, trying to cut the throttle, and then I'm going to flare and drop my wheels, and then gently drop the nose. So there you go. Down. So perfect landing. Trying to get back to the center by pulling the rudders. Hope you enjoyed the flight. I enjoyed flying and narrating this to you, and this was fantastic. As I get to the parking, I thank you for flying with me, and hopefully we can meet again in another flight. Thanks and bye.
Anchorage Airport information, Whiskey 19000 Zulu. Wind calm. Visibility 9er. Sky condition clear. Temperature 15. Dew point 13. Altimeter 29.902. Visual runway 25 left and visual runway 25 right in use. Landing and departing runway 15. VFR aircraft say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact you have Whiskey. Anchorage Airport information, Whiskey 19000 Zulu. Wind calm. Visibility 9er. Sky condition clear. Temperature 15. Dew point 13. Altimeter 29.902.
121.9er for SR 3915 Sierra Romeo 42. Anchorage ground SR 3915 Sierra Romeo 42, request taxi to parking.
SR 3915 Sierra Romeo for 2 taxi to General Aviation Parking via Taxiway Hotel Cross Runway 7 left Hotel Kilo Cross Runway 33 Kilo Echo Cross Runway 25 right Echo Cross Runway 25 left Echo Foxtrot Zulu.
Taxiing to General Aviation Parking via Taxiway Hotel, Cross